for serious French citizens as well. One, only the situation I'm speaking to you tonight in light of the current international climate and the consequences that will have on Europe and France. From a diplomatic point of view, is not a key. You are quite rightly concerned about the historical events that are taking place right now and that are shaking up the world order. The war in Ukraine, which has already caused millions of deaths and displaced persons, is continuing to continue in our region, planning to do support to Ukraine and uncertain. And yet at the same time, the United States of America, striving to implement tariffs on products being sent out from Europe to Britain and the world, is continuing to be as brutal as ever. And the terrorist threat is still as present as ever in the security net. Our prosperity and our security have become as uncertain as ever before. It is with that the clarity that I can say that we are moving into a new era. Dawn Ukraine has been ongoing for some 3 years now. We took decisions to sanction Russia, and we were right in doing so, because it's not just the Ukrainian people who are fighting bravely for the safety, but it is our very security that is under threat of having a country invading the neighbor with impunity. That is a dire message for the rest of the world, saying that peace is under threat around the world, and we have learned from the mistakes of the past. Lemon is the Russian threat, is ever present, and is on European borders. It is affecting all of us. Russia has already turned to the war in Ukraine into a global conflict that we have North Korean soldiers. We have Iranian forces all seeking to bolster their forces. It is a puzzle. Russia is crossing of borders to influence what is happening in Moldova, in Romania, on blue fonctionment. They are impeding the operations of our hospitals. They're spreading lies on social media, and they are pushing our limits. They're doing it in the air, on the soil, and in space, and even on our screens on the frontier. That it seems that this war knows no bounds army diplomacy. Russia is continuing to weaponize increasing budgets by now. In 2030, Russia is going to increase the scope of its army with 1.5 million additional soldiers, 7,000 tanks, and 1,500 fighter jets. So given that observation, who is going to say that Russia is going to stop it? Ukraine, a dozen or more? Russia has become no and will continue to be a threat for France and for Europe. It is with deep regret that I make such an observation, but I am convinced that in the long-term peace will return to Europe ahead of with Russia once again peaceful. But the current situation is what it is, and we have to deal with it, as it is dangerous to speak the truth given the world of danger that we live in. Standing idly by would be madness. So we have to take decisions now for Ukraine, for the security of French people, for Europe, double first for Ukraine. If the old peace initiatives are heading in the right direction and we welcome progress being made, we need to continue enabling Ukrainians to resist so that they can end up in a stable situation for themselves, but stability for us as well. And that is why peace cannot be achieved by abandoning Ukraine. Peace cannot come at any price, and it cannot come from Russia dictating the terms of peace for Ukraine that come with the collapse of Ukraine. It was just one example, and we have seen this happen in the past. We see a common set of who can forget this invasion started back in 2014, and that there was a ceasefire that was agreed to in Minsk, and that same Russia did not uphold the peace, the truce, the ceasefire agreement guarantees. So we cannot have stability without robust guarantees. We cannot take them at their word. Ukraine has a right to peace and security for itself, and it is in our interest, and it is in the interest of security in Europe. And that is why we are working closely with our British, German allies, and many other European nations. That is why you have seen me in these past few weeks engage with numerous of these people in Europe, in London, to draft the commitments that are the base requirements for Ukraine for us to sign a peace agreement where Ukraine will no longer be invaded by Russia. We have to do so by supporting the Ukrainian troops in the midterm that it may require further European forces to be deployed in Europe, but Russia is local. So this war is not going to be just on the war fronts. This is a fight that we need to fight it to ensure stability. And that is why the heads of armies in Europe are going to meet to ensure that we can come to agreement that we need to come up with a long-term peace plan, one that we can continue to chart. This is what we have prepared with a number of European partners in Ukraine. This is what I went to present to the United States just a few days ago, and I want to believe that the United States will stay by our side, but we need to be ready to look beyond Ukraine. If that were not the case, whether we come to peace now or in a somewhat distant future, it's the capability of Europe. It needs to be able to better defend itself and to deter other forms of invasion in whatever the case may be. We need to see ourselves more that we need to bolster our defense positions. We need to looten, and that is why we uphold NATO's and our partnership with the United States of America. But we need more. We need to reinforce our own defense and security capabilities in the globe. The future of Europe is not going to be decided by Russia or by Washington. So, yes, once again, the threat is now coming from the East. And this is a stark reminder of what has happened to these past 30 years since the fall of the Berlin Wall in Turkey. We've now moved into a new era. So we have the meeting of that, heads of state and government of Europe at the Council. And we will take your decisions on numerous decisions and the things that France has been suggesting and proposing for many years, some increasing non-military budgets, so that they can no longer be accounted for as state deficit enabling nations to buy the diesel munitions, weapons, military equipment from European nations that maybe these people could use. We have been working so that we can better on our military as fast as possible, and that means re-industrializing our region. I think any minister competently, and I will sit down with competent ministers and industrial partners in the near future to discuss such a future. The vision, don't contradict what we have been defending for the past 8 years, is now a reality. We need to ensure that Europeans are ready to defend ourselves. We need to ensure that European nations can behave properly, defend, and cooperate. It is a bunch, and what I'm seeing now is a good thing. We have Germany, Poland, Denmark, the Baltic states, and numerous partners have also announced that they're going to increase military spending. With no action being taken. France has a unique role to play. We have the most effective army and military in all of Europe, and this is something that we have been bolstering since the World War. Our nuclear capacity to move and this gives us a certain position which is different to our neighbors in Ukraine, that we didn't have to wait for invasion in Ukraine for us to understand that we had to increase our military spending. And this is what we have put through in numerous budgets to Parliament. We have doubled our military spending in the past 10 years. This attack, Syria, has given the threats and the acceleration of events. We have to make new budgetary decisions, additional spending which are now essential, that I have asked the government to work on such a budget as rapidly as possible. This will mean new investment, if not more peace, that we will have to reach out to. Private funding and public funding is important for talking again without increasing taxes. But for that means reform choices, and it requires courage on our behalf. Our nuclear deterrence protects US.It is French from A to Z national for. It has been in place ever since 1964, and it has always played an essential role in ensuring peace and security in Europe. We don't lapel historic, but when we want to reach out best to our German chancellor, a new German chancellor, the news that you get your continent, that we want to ensure that deterrence applies to all European allies. This is whatever may come to be shifted on me. That decision to use the nuclear deterrence will always remain in the hands of the French president and head of the armed forces, or economy, so we can ensure our independence through military means, but also through economic means, because economic independence is essential for US.as good as it is. We need to prepare ourselves for a world where the United States of America will decide to implement greater tariffs on European products, which is what the president has just announced for. Canada and Mexico. Don't pull economy American too. This is going to have a negative impact on both the American economy and the French economy, the European economy. It will exacerbate current difficulties that we are all facing, but it will not go without a response from the onset of it. So we are working on a response plan with European partners, and in the meantime, we will continue to strive to convince the powers to be that will have a negative impact on all.so. We will have to convince and discourage the President of the United States of America from taking such action. President, so this is a time where we will have to make decisions like we've never had to do before in terms of agriculture research. Our industry for all public policy debates, and again, the discussions that we're going to will have to change. And that is why I have called on the Prime Minister and the government. And in fact, I call upon all economic trade union operators to work together to come forward with proposals. Given the new global context, to put the decisions that we will make in the coming days and years cannot be based upon past experience decisions that are happening now and what is happening now. Neelix will change the world for the future. We cannot give in to defeatism. You can cap France. So we will head toward the single goal, one of peace and freedom. These two are true to its history, true to its own principles. Yes, this is what we believe in for our security, for our safety. But this is what we believe because it is a way of defending democracy, the reality in a belief in truth, but just based on a society in freely seeking respect within our societies, a freedom of expression, which is not just opening up avenues for hate speech. This is what we believe in the top of Fox economy. Our Europe has the economic power, the talent to be able to step up to the plate, give Australia more and we have a means. Therefore, we now need to act united as Europeans determined to protect ourselves. A patriot. And that is why the French nation needs you politically is to keep them on political decisions. Military equipment, that is just one part of the puzzle, but it will never replace the power that comes with the soul of a nation to sharply divide our generation. It will not be able to just live off the dividends of peace. It is up to us to sow the seeds for the future. Also, so together we will stand true. Long live the French Republic. Long live France.